Yeah, had a phone call. But continuing. All right, I was at verse 2. This is Genesis 34:2. It says, and when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, and the Hivites are Hamites. Okay, and that's what Shechem was. Shechem was a Hamite. All right. And it says, prince of the country saw her and took her and lie with her and defile her. Now that defiling was the raping. He pretty much raped Dinah. Okay, that's what Shechem did. Shechem, he raped Dinah. He raped Jacob's daughter. That was that defiling. He raped her. Okay, and it says in verse 3, it says, and his soul cleaved unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. Verse 4, it says, and Shechem spake unto his father Hamor. See, Shechem spoken unto his father Hamor. Hamor a Hamite, and Shechem was a Hamite. Okay, Hamor is the father of Shechem. And it says, saying, get me this damsel to wife. Verse 5, and Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. He raped his daughter. Jacob found out that Shechem raped his daughter Dinah. Okay. It says, now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. Verse 6, and Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him, to have that conversation, right? Verse 7, and the sons of Jacob came out of the field, and they heard it. And the men were grieved, and they were wroth. They were upset. Now, out of all the sons of Jacob, they were all upset, but the main two that was upset the most out of all the sons of Jacob were Shimeon and Levi. And Shimeon and Levi, they were the ones that were angrier the most out of all the brothers. They were the main ones that were upset. All right. It says because he had raw folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. Right. Verse 8, and Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter, and I pray you give her him to wife, and make marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you, and ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. It says, dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possession therein. Verse 11, and Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much. It says dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. So he's pretty much, Shechem is asking Jacob and his brothers permissions to have their sister as his wife. This is what Shechem is pretty much. This is all that's going on. The father speaking to Jacob, Shechem's father, who's Hamor, is speaking to Jacob, telling Jacob that he want his daughter to be married to his son, and his son Shechem want Dinah as his wife, and that's what's pretty much going on right here. All right, and they're all pretty much they're pretty much talking. All right, and it says, where was I at? So I can bear with me. I'll start at verse 11. It says, and ye shall dwell with us, and in the land shall be for you dwell a trade ye therein, and get you possession therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto the brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Verse 12, ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah their sister, he raped her. Right? And it says, verse 14, and they said unto them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. Verse 15, but in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised. So pretty much Jacob is telling them to get circumcised. Right? They have to be circumcised. Right? Verse 16, then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters unto us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. Verse 17, but if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughters, and we will be gone. Verse 18, and their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son, Verse 19, and the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. Verse 20, and Hamor and Shechem his son came unto the gate of their city, and communed with the men of their city, saying, these men are peaceable with us, therefore let them dwell in all the land, and trade therein. For the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us make their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Verse 22. We'll get to the main point. Only herein will the men consent unto us, for to dwell with us, and to be one people. If every male among us be circumcised, as they are circumcised. Verse 23. It says, shall not their cattle and their substance, and every beast be theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearkened all that went out of the gate of his city, and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of his land. So Shechem and Hamor went to their village and told them that the Israelites would take on the daughters of their nation, and of the Hivite nation. The Hivite nations will take on the daughters of Israel. But the Lord didn't allow that to happen, because this is what's going to happen. Check this out. Now, even though they negotiated all that, the Lord didn't allow that to happen. That's why the spirit of anger is going to come on Shechem, and spirit of anger is going to come on Levi and Shimeon. Watch this. Verse 5. It says, verse 25. It says, and it came to pass on the third day. See, so they got circumcised. After that, Hamor, Shechem, and all the Hivites, which are all the Hamites in that village, all the males were circumcised. So for 3 days they were sore. On the third day, Shimeon and Levi are going to take it upon themselves and go into the village and kill every single person in there. They're going to kill all the males and take their women captive. Shimeon and Levi are going to do that. They're going to have the spirit of anger. They're going to go into the village and kill all the males in that village and take their little ones and their wives captive. They took those women. We're going to prove it right here. This is Genesis 34 and verse 25. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Shimeon and Levi, Dana's brethren, took each man his sword and came upon the city boldly and slew all the males. So they kill all the males in the village. They kill all the males in the village, and after they kill all the males in the village, they're going to take their little ones, their wives, their cattle, their wealth. They're going to take all that after they kill all the males in there. Okay? And it says, verse 26, and they slew Hamor. So they killed Hamor. They killed Shechem, right? It says his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dana out. They took their sister Dana out of that village of Shechem's house and went out. Verse 27, the sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. So see, Shimeon and Levi, that's why when you go back to Genesis 49 and it says they slew a man and dug down a wall, this is what they were talking about. When their sister Dana got raped by Shechem, the Hamite, Shimeon and Levi took it upon themselves to go into the village and to kill all the males in that village, and then take captive their little ones and their wives. Okay? That's what they did. So that's what that's talking about when you go to Genesis 49. Right? And it says, verse 27, the sons of Jacob came upon the slain of the spoil of the city, because they had defiled their sister. Verse 28, they took their sheep and their oxen and their asses, and that which was in the city and which was in the field. Verse 29, and all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in their house. Right? You see that? They took their wives captive. It says, and all their little ones and all their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. They took those girls, took those women. Right? They killed all the males in there. They took all their oxen, their sheep, they took all of that. All their asses, they took all of that. Their wealth, their women, took all that. They killed all the males in the village and took everyone captive. That's what they did. You see that? And it says, it says, read from verse 27. It says, the sons of Jacob came and slain and spoiled the city because they had defiled their sister. Salaki, interruption. Continuing. I was at verse 27. It says, the sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city because they had defiled their sister. Verse 28. They took of their sheep and their oxen and their asses, that which was in the city and that which was in the field. Verse 29. And all of their wealth and all of their little ones and their wives took they captive and spoiled even all that was in the house. Verse 30. It says, and Jacob said to Shimeon and to Levi, ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, these are Hamites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed. And it says, I shall be destroyed, I and my house. Verse 31, and they said, it says, and they said, should he deal with our sister as with the harlot? So long story short, Shimei and Levi, they took it upon themselves to go into the city and to kill all the males in the city. So they have the spirit of anger. Okay, so that's what they did. So now let's go back to Genesis 49, right? Now, when you read Genesis 49, and it says right here, Genesis 49 and verse 6, it says, O my soul, come not thou out into their secret. It says, their assembly honor me both thou united, right? Because they're not united, right? Shimei and Levi are not reunited right now, right? And it says, for in their anger they slew down a man and dug down. It says, for in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dug down a wall. That's going into Genesis 34. They killed Hamor, the father of Shechem, and they killed Shechem, and they killed all the males in that village, right? And they took their little ones and wives captive. They took their oxen, their asses, all of that captive. So when you read that in Genesis 49, that's what they were taught. That's what it's talking about there. They dug down a wall. They slew a man and dug down a wall. That's what that's talking about. They killed all those males. So long story short, Shimei and Levi, they have the spirit of anger. Those are the two people that you don't want to make angry. The Dominicans and the Haitians. Okay, they have a spirit of anger. You don't want to piss them off. Okay, and it says verse 7. It says, cursed be their anger. You see that? They had a spirit of anger. It says, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. It says, I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. So Shimei and Levi, their brethren, they do live on the same island, which is Hispaniola. You have the Haiti and you have the Dominican Republic. That's on one island, okay, which is called Hispaniola. Okay, so even though they live on the same island, they don't get along. But the Lord is going to have them, all that's going to work when the Lord come back. But right now, Shimei and Levi, they don't get along. They're not united. Okay, and Shimei is the so-called Dominicans today. That's the tribe of Shimei, the Dominicans, and the tribe of Levi are the Haitians. Okay. Now continuing, this is verse 8. Genesis 49:8. It says, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. And Judah is the so-called Negroes, so-called African Americans, as you want to call them. That's the tribe of Judah. Judah is the top tribe. Okay, that's the tribe that Yahushua is out of, King David, Solomon. All right, these are men that's out of the tribe of Judah. Okay, Judah is the top tribe, man. Okay, and all the tribes, they follow after Judah. Genesis 49:8. Judah, thou art he whom thou, who says like it says, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Right? It says, thy hand shall be in the neck of thy enemies. And when it says Judah, it says whom thy brothers shall praise. Everyone follows after Judah. Everyone mimics Judah. Everyone be like Judah. To the fashion, to the clothes, you see Judah, even look at the hip hop era back in the day, everyone follows after Judah. Okay. And it says thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies, right? And who's in the neck of their enemies? Esau Edom, right? Judah was in captivity to Esau Edom. Okay. He's in captivity. All of us were, but Jacob was in captivity. Not Jacob. Judah was in captivity to Esau, and he still is right now. We all are. All right, all the tribes are. All right, it says, thy hand shall be in the neck of thy enemies. It says, thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Right, because right now Judah is the old lion, but Judah is the top tribe. All the other tribes are going to bow down before Judah because Judah is the top tribe. Okay, Judah is the top tribe. Right now, Judah is looked down upon. Judah is the oppressed tribe, by Esau, Edom, etc. But when the Lord come back and everything is established in righteousness, all the tribes are going to bow down before Judah because Judah is the top tribe. Okay, Judah is the top tribe. Judah is the lead. Okay, it's the spirit of the lion. All right, and it says, verse 9. It says, Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey, right? And who's the prey? Esau, Edom, right. It says, Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey, my son. Thou art gone up. It says, he stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rise him up? Right, because right now Judah's getting killed left and right by Esau. Judgment is happening to him, etc. here and there. But the Lord is going to rise up Judah. Judah's going to rise up. And once Judah rises up, then all the other tribes are going to rise up after Judah. As Judah rises up, then Ephraim's going to rise up, and all those other tribes are going to rise up. But before I get that, I want to get out, where's 2 Kings? I think it's 11, 13 and 11. Let me see. I think it's 11 and I think I went too far. Here it is. Because Esau is the prey. Okay? And we're going to prove that. This is 1 Kings 11 and 15. It says, for if it came to pass when David was in Edom and Joab. So David and Joab was in the land of Edom for 6 months. And as they were in the land for 6 months, they killed all the male Edomites. Okay, so that's to prove that Esau is the prey. Right? It says, for it came to pass when David was in Edom and Joab, the captain of the host, was gone up to bury the slain after he had smitten every male in Edom. You see that? So they were in the land of Edom for 6 months and they slayed all the males. Right? Verse 16, it says, for 6 months did Joab remain there with all Israel until he had cut off every male in Edom. You see that? So that's proving that the Esau is the prey there. Okay? Because in that time, you had Solomon, right? I mean, you had David and Joab. They were in the land of Edom for 6 months. And as they were in the land for Edom for 6 months, they killed all the males. All right? Let me read that again, and then we're going to go to them rising up. Because the Lord Yahweh Bashim Ashai is going to rise up Judah. And once Judah rises up, then all the other tribes are going to follow. And that's in Zechariah 9 and 13. But let's get this. This is Genesis 49. And, where was I at? Verse 9. Yeah, verse 9. It says, Judah is the lion's whelp from the prey, which is Esau, Edom. It says, my son, thou art gone up. Judah is the so-called Negroes, but the prey is Esau, Edom. It says, thou art gone up. It says, he stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rise him up? All right, who's going to rise him up? Yahweh Bashim Ashai is going to rise up Judah. And once Judah rises up, then Ephraim is going to rise up. Once Ephraim rises up, all the other tribes are going to follow. And that's in Zechariah. Let me get that. This is in Zechariah. That's Zephaniah. Zechariah 9 and 13. Zechariah 9 and 13. It says, when I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, and rise up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Greece, and made thee as a sword of the mighty men. So you see that? Once Judah rises up, then Ephraim's going to rise up and follow. And once Ephraim rises up, all the other tribes are going to rise up. They're going to follow after Judah, because Judah is the top tribe, man. All right? And I had another precept. This is Deuteronomy 33. It's Deuteronomy 33. And Deuteronomy 33 and Here it is right here. Verse 7. This is Deuteronomy 33 and 7. And it says, and this is the blessing of Judah. And he saith, hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. Let this hands be significant for him, and be thou an help to him from his enemies. And you see that? Judah is the top tribe, right? And Judah is the tribe. That's why the scriptures say, going back to here in verse 8, where it says, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Because everyone follows after Judah. Judah is the top tribe. Okay, Judah is that top tribe there. All right? Right? And it says, I read again. And it says, and this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people, Israel. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou an help to him from his enemies. You see that? So that's the tribe of Judah. Judah is the so-called Negroes, man. Okay, so-called African Americans. That's the tribe of Judah. So-called Negroes. You're the tribe of Judah. Okay. Continuing. This is and then when you read verse 9 again. Judah is the Lord's whelp from the prey. My son, thou art gone up. He stood down. He crouched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rise him up? Yahweh Shemashai is going to rise up Judah. Once Judah rises up, Ephraim's going to follow. Once Ephraim follows, and all the other tribes are going to follow after Judah. They're going to follow after Ephraim. Okay? But Judah is the top tribe. Judah is the so-called Negroes. Right? Negroes, African Americans, black, as they call themselves, which is no such thing as black people. But black, as you call it, that's the tribe of Judah. You guys are the tribe of Judah today. Alright, verse 10, it says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. And Shiloh is referring to Yahweh Shai. Now, you got these Old Testament Israelites, they say Shiloh is a place. Okay, it is a place. But when you read Genesis 49, that's not talking about a place. That's referring to the Messiah. Okay, because when you go in the blue letter, it says the Messiah right there. So when it says Shiloh, until Shiloh come, that's talking about Yahweh Shai, the Messiah. Okay, that's who that's talking about there. That's not talking about Shiloh, the place. That's talking about the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Because how could if Shiloh is a place, how could Shiloh gather anyone? Because when you read below that scripture there, it says, him shall the gathering of the people be. If Shiloh is a place, how a place is going to be able to gather Israel? It's not going to happen. A place can't gather anybody. A person has to do the gathering. And that's Yahweh Shai. He's going to do the gathering. Okay? Verse 10, it says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh comes. Shiloh is referring to the Messiah, Yahweh Shai. Right? It says, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. You see that Yahweh Shai is going to do the gathering. He's going to gather the people. He's going to gather the elect of the nation of Israel. The elect of the nation of Israel is going to be gathered under Yahweh Shai. Okay? Yahweh Shai is going to do that gathering. Just prove that. I just want to prove that in here, just to add a little bonus scripture. Matthew 24 and 31. This is Matthew chapter 24 and 31. Right? And it says, and this is the Messiah speaking too. It says, and he shall send his angels, right, with a great sound of the trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven either to the other. So there you go. You see that? The angel is going to do the gathering. Yahweh Shai is going to gather the people. He's going to gather the elect from one end of heaven even onto the other. So the elect of the nation of Israel, they're going to be gathered under Yahweh Shai. Okay? Continuing. And it says, verse 10, it says, and unto him shall the gathering, it says, unto him, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. So they're going to be gathered under Yahweh Shai, who is Shiloh. That's where the gathering is going to come from, the Messiah, Yahweh Shai. Verse 11, it says, binding his fowl. Now, this is talking about the Messiah in verse 11. Thou binding his fowl onto the wine, into the vine, and his ass's colt, right? An ass is a donkey, and a colt is a baby donkey, onto the choice vine. He washes his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. You see that? This is talking about the Messiah here. Verse 12, it says, his eyes shall be red with wine, right? Because the Messiah drank a lot of wine. He was a wine bibber. Now, when we say that, people get hurt and get offended and try to say, oh, you said he was an alcoholic. The Messiah drank a lot of wine, okay? He drank a lot of wine. He drank a lot of wine. He was a wine bibber. He was an alcoholic. The Messiah drank a lot of wine. That's why his eyes was red with wine. He drank a lot of wine, man, okay? There's nothing wrong with drinking wine. Everybody drinks wine. Okay? There's nothing wrong with drinking alcohol, drinking wine. Just can't get drunkenness, over drink. But you can drink alcohol. Can't be over righteous. Alright? Continuing. It says, verse 11, it says, being his fowl onto the vine, and his asses onto Salakia, and his asses onto the vine. It says he washed his garments and wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. Verse 12. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Now, we know that the Messiah's eyes were red with wine because he drank a lot of wine. He was that wine builder, right? And then it says, and his teeth being white with milk. Now, that teeth being white with milk, that's not actually talking about the Messiah's teeth being white. That's not what that's talking about. Okay, that's talking about the sincere milk of the word. Okay, and that's in 1 Peter, I believe 1 Peter, to get that out, to back up what I'm saying, that would be 1 Peter 2 and 2. 2 Peter 2 and 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 2. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 2. So 1 Peter 2 and 2. This is 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 2. And it says, as newborn babes desiring the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby. Right. So that his teeth being white with milk, that's talking about the sincere milk, right, of the word. Okay, that's talking about the truth, the gospel. Okay, the word, that's talking about the word. So when his teeth being white with milk, that's talking about the word. Okay, the sincere milk of the word. Our Lord Yahushua is of the word. All right, the word is written of him. Let's prove it. I think that's in Psalms. Let's get that out in Psalms, was it 47? Let me get that out. It's really quick for edification for those that's new in the truth. I think it's Psalms 47. Psalm chapter 40 and verse 7. Yep. It says, then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me. You see that? So the Lord, he comes in the volume of the book is written of him. The word is written of Yahushua. And to back that up, we can go to Hebrews. It says the same thing. Hebrews 10 and 7. This is Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 7. This is Hebrews 10 and 7. It says, then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me to do thy will, O power. So you see that? The word is written of Yahushua. That's the word. The sincere milk of the word. So his teeth being white with milk, that's talking about the sincere milk of the word. This truth. That's what that's talking about. The word is written of Yahushua. Okay? Alright, so verse 12, it says Zebulon. Now Zebulon is the Guatemalans and Panamanians. Okay, that's the tribe of Zebulon. Alright? And it says, Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of the sea, right? And he shall be for a haven of ships. Now, that's the haven of ships and this haven of the sea. That's talking about the Panama Canal. Okay, you got a lot of sailors that may have cargo, merchandise, certain things like that, right? Where they have that they use to go through the Panama Canal as a shortcut to get to their destination quicker. So that's talking about the Panama Canal. All right, so let's read it again. This is Genesis 49 and verse 13. It says, Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for a haven of ships. And that's talking about the Panama Canal. Now, the Panama Canal, again, you have sailors and ships that go through the Panama Canal that have cargo, resources, certain things like that they need to use to go through the Panama Canal to get to their destination quickly. So that's what that's talking about there. That's talking about the Panama Canal. All right? That's in Panama. And it says, and his borders shall be unto Zidon. And there you go. Zebulon is the so-called Panamanians and Guatemalans. That's the tribe of Zebulon. Okay? And that's talking about the Panama Canal, the shaving of ships. And it says in verse 14, it says, Issachar is a strong ass couching down between the two burdens. And the two burdens is South America and North America. Those are the two burdens there. South America and North America. They're between the two burdens there. That's what that's talking about. And Issachar is the so-called Hispanics, a.k.a. Latinos, a.k.a. Mexicans, Hispanics. That's the tribe of Issachar. Okay? It says, verse 15, it says, and he saw the rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Right, they do a lot of working. Right, Issachar, they can do 3, 4, 5 jobs. They got the spirit of labor to work. They work a lot. Issachar loves to work, and that's who Issachar is. So-called Hispanics. They could do anything, janitorial work, selling ice creams, selling food, selling tamales, that's Issachar. The so-called Hispanics. They love to work. Okay, they love to work, and that's Issachar. It says, verse 16, Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. It says, verse 17, Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. Right, and Dan, the tribe of Dan, no one knows where Dan is, okay? Dan is pretty much through faith is mixed upon Israel, okay? We don't know who the tribe of Dan is, okay? Dan is pretty much mixed all into Israel, okay? We don't know who the tribe of Dan is. And it says, verse 18, it says, I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. Verse 18, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Right, it says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him. And Gad is the so-called Native American Indians. Okay, they were taken down by the U.S. troops. You had the Queen Anne Wars, the King and Philip Wars, it's called the Indian Wars, right? The Trail of Tears, Wounded Knee. You had the King Philip Wars, Queen Anne Wars, the Intercontinental Wars, Indian Wars. You had the Trail of Tears. You had Wounded Knee. There's a lot of wars that you can look up. Okay, you can look up all those wars. Okay, you can look up those wars, but the tribe of Gad is the so-called Native American Indians. Okay, they lost by the U.S. troops. A troop overcame them, but we will laugh at the end though. Roughly paraphrase the reading again, and it says, let me see, it says Gad, a troop shall overcome him, right? And it says a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. See, but he shall overcome at the last. All right, and Gad is the so-called Native American Indians, and we're gonna go to my fault. Salakia, get into back to this. Salakia. I'm kind of confused right now. Oh, Deuteronomy 33. Salakia. Some stuff happened, but Salakia. Deuteronomy 33. Deuteronomy 33 and Deuteronomy 33 and I'm trying to think. Bear with me. I had a precept here. Here it is. Salakia. This is Deuteronomy 33 and 20. It says, and of Gad he said, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. It says, he dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm of his crown of the head. You see that? Verse 21. And he provided the first part of himself, because there in a portion of a lawgiver was he seated, and he came with the heads of the people. He executed the justice of the Lord and his judgment with Israel. See that? So Gad is the so-called Native American Indians, man. Okay, that's the tribe of Gad. And continuing down, verse 20, it says, out of Asher, right? Out of Asher, it says, out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall be yielded of royal dainties. And the royal dainties is the jewelry, the rubies, the merchandise, okay, the jewelries, the rubies, the stones, etc. That's Asher. Asher is the Colombians and the Yurgaranians. Okay, that's the tribe of Asher. Okay, the Colombians and the Yurgaranians. Okay, and it says, verse 21, it says, Naphtali is an hind let loose, he giveth goodly words, right? And Naphtali is the Argentinians and Chile. Okay, that's Naphtali, the Argentinians and Chile. Okay, and it says, verse 21, Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well whose branches run over the wall. The archers have certainly given him, grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. It says, but his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty. It says, God of Jacob, from thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel, even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by thy Almighty, who shall bless thee, with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep, that lieth under the blessing of the beast and of the womb. Verse 26, blessing of thy father have prevailed above the blessing of the progenitors into the uttermost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Right? And Joseph is the tribe of, Joseph is the tribe of Ephraim, but Joseph also had two sons. He had Ephraim and he had Manasseh. Okay, Ephraim, Manasseh is also the sons of Joseph. Now notice, when you go to Genesis 49, you won't see Ephraim and Manasseh there. Alright, now Ephraim and Manasseh, those were Joseph's sons. And Jacob, he took Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and claimed them as his own sons. So that's what makes up the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, which we can get right here. Because people might say, well, how could that be? Then how could that make up Israel? How could they be Israel if they're Joseph's sons? I mean, if they're Joseph's sons, yeah. Jacob claimed Joseph's sons as his own. Okay, he took Joseph's sons and claimed them as his own sons, which makes up the 12 tribes of Israel. So that's why you see Ephraim and Manasseh. And we can go to Genesis 49 to bring this. Genesis 48. It's Genesis 48 and 1. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, behold, thy father is sick, and he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. You see that? So Joseph took with him two of his sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And it says, verse 2, and one told Jacob and said, behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. Verse 3, and Jacob said unto Joseph, Power Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me. And he said unto me, behold, I will make thee fruitful, and will multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. Verse 5, and it says, and now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. So Jacob took Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and claimed them as his own. Okay, so that's who the sons of those two sons are. Manasseh and Ephraim are actually Joseph's sons, but Jacob claimed Manasseh and Ephraim as his own sons, which make up the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. So now, when you go to Genesis 49, you won't see Ephraim and Manasseh there, because you'll be like, I see Joseph, but where are Ephraim and Manasseh at? Ephraim and Manasseh are mentioned in Genesis 48. So that's where you can get that information from. Okay? Because you won't see them there. You'll see Joseph, and then they'll just skip down to Benjamin, and you'll be like, where is Manasseh and Ephraim at? Where did they come from? Read Genesis 49, 1 through 5, and you'll get your answer. They make up the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, because Jacob claimed Joseph's sons as his own. So that's where Ephraim and Manasseh come in at as the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Verse 27, Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall be divided spoil. And Benjamin is the so-called Jamaicans today. That's the tribe of Benjamin, right? The West Indies, all right? The West Indians, which are Jamaicans, okay? That's the tribe of Benjamin. It says, all of these were the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is it that their fathers spake unto them, and blessed them, every one according to his blessing, he blessed them, right? Verse 29, and he charged them and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Now, when you get to verse 29 and you read down, finishing the chapter, this goes into where Jacob is on his deathbed, and he's on his last hours, and he's gonna wind up dying. But this is a prophecy, the last prophecy he gave to his sons before he died, okay? And now he's going to tell them where he wants to be buried at. Verse 29, and he charged them and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me, right, with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite. It says, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Ephraim bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burning place. Verse 31, it says, there they are buried. It says, there they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. It says, there they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. It says, 32, the purchase of the field of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. Verse 33, and when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet unto the bed, and yielded up the ghost, and was gathered unto his people. And you see that Jacob wound up passing away. But that's pretty much the breakdown in Genesis 49. For those of you that's new in this truth, that's the breakdown in Genesis 49. So hey, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all honors and glories and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Yahweh Kakodash, and double honors to the elders and the apostles and bishops at Great Millstone, who will well and teach well, because those are the men who I've learned this 100% truth from, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemashai. Peace, blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect, and shalom to you sincere brothers that are scattered abroad, pushing forth his word in truth and sincerity, and shalom to you sincere sisters that are listening in silence as the scriptures command you to do so. I am the brother Mashiach Arazakah, and on to the next one. Shalom.